Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Aubie Knight. Aubie, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, no, Aaron, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I am super glad that right now we're first week in December. I know you're going to be in a good mood, not only because you love Thanksgiving, you love the holiday season, but Georgia football playoffs. So I feel like we're in a good place right now for us to have an open, honest, and positive conversation.
Yeah, so I've been, a Georgia football fan and going to games for, 50 plus years. And it's a great time. Like we're at the height of Georgia fandom. So it's been a fantastic, 4 or 5 year run that we've been on. And hopefully we've got a deep run in us this year. We'll see.
I think that, and this does play into Keep Hustling a little bit. I think that one of the greatest things about American society, I've never been to NASCAR, but I understand that NASCAR is like a crazy sport. College football fandom is the craziest thing. I have heard, I've been in places where, we're both in the insurance industry. People are like still stuck up, serious, suit wearing, white, like 60, 70-year-old people. And they start talking about, you can talk about anything, but you start talking about college football and start ripping on their school or talking about some rivalry, like they become worse than my teenage children. Worse. So I'm the infant children. Forget about teenage children. So I think it's great.
Yeah, for one more week, I have a 19-year-old. So my youngest is 19. She's we'll say a little prayer for her right now. She's taking her risk management and insurance final at University of Georgia as we speak, or within the hour. So she'll be finished for this week. She's got one more final next week. So she's sort of carrying on the family tradition at the University of Georgia and studying risk management and insurance.
Right. Well, I would say sucker, but whatever. I do too. So I tell everyone, read the bio in the description. We don't do long bios here at the KHP because we just jump into it. If there's one thing that I can say about Aubie Knight, it's the guy who shows up everywhere to give back a little bit or a lot of it to anybody who's willing to listen, take it, or do it. We saw each other in New York. I don't think I've ever been at an industry event that you weren't at, or if you weren't there, it was because you were at a different event. But regardless of state or what I would say is financial gain, for lack of a better term, you're like the ultimate giver. So I wanted to, in this holiday season, I wanted to have you on and ask you, where does that come from? Take us back.
I really do believe, and I've heard it my whole career, that insurance is a relationship business at its core. And I don't think there's any better way to build relationships than to be with people, and to be present, to break bread with people, to get to know people socially, personally. I think that's a big part of, it's been a big part of some of the successes that we've been able to have as an organization has been the ability to tap into the relationships that, you've nurtured and established, cultivated over really what is now, stacking up to be a decades long career serving and helping independent insurance agents.
So what do you say to the people? And I believe that 100%. I believe that there's nothing like showing up. I did something crazy today. I called someone already this morning, and I actually just tweeted this. Don't put your emails, your cell phone number as the only phone number in your email signature and then expect me not to call it. The guy was shocked. It wasn't 7:00 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning. It's in the same time zone. I'm still home. I didn't realize we had something scheduled. I said, we didn't, but I have a question. Oh, so why are you calling me? Because it's in your email signature. What do you mean? So I believe that the phone and meeting in person is incredibly powerful. And what I find interesting is that, not to rip on the people after my generation, but people totally don't value that. People don't value if I don't have a deliverable with you today, why are we having this conversation?
Right.
And it's interesting because people like to talk about, I think it's Bezos. It's one of the big guys. I think it's Bezos who says that meetings can only be 15 minutes because you got to cut out the small talk, and also if you're at a meeting, maybe it's Musk. If you're at a meeting and you feel like there's no value anymore, you can just get up and leave. Like there could be 20 people in the room, you just get up and leave. And who am I to say? I'm not a multi billionaire, but unless you're a multi-billionaire, it's really difficult to say that relationships should just be built on and a career can be built on just transactional
Outcome, right? The
interactions.
outcome from that, from that specific interaction. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I think I think it's Musk. Maybe it's Bezos, but also like don't have a chair in your office because you don't want people to sit down and be comfortable and like feel at home, like make themselves at home. But I completely disagree with that. Like I probably value the relationship component more, particularly with my team and the culture that we've built here within the organization. Post COVID, because during COVID, everything was kind of relegated to having conversations like you and I are having now, sort of video conversations, and you had to be intentional about making small talk. Right. You had to be intentional about that. And you just forget, like I had a member of my management team who was pregnant during COVID, and I would only see her, from like here on our video meetings, and you sort of forget that she's pregnant and you don't ask, well, how are you feeling? When's, remind me when the baby's due, that sort of thing. And then, she came into the office to pick up something one day, and I'm like, holy cow, I forgot, like you're about to pop, you're about to have a baby. And I talk to you every day, and I'd sort of forgotten that. And I know that, since COVID, I like to see when my team's in the office, and we're on a very hybrid schedule here with people working remote and then in the office as well. I like to see people having that water cooler talk now and talking about, what activities your kid doing or what show are you binge watching, because that's how you build relationship, right? And that's how you get to know people. And you can't trust people unless you know them, and I think that's a big part of culture and having effective teamwork.
And I think, and then I think people perform better. And it's interesting because as soon as you bring up the COVID thing, a lot of people forget it. It's funny. I was talking to my kids yesterday, and my daughter, who just turned, my son, it was my son who just turned 9.
Wow. Yeah, they were
I
little.
said something about COVID, and he's like, I thought that was just a couple of weeks. And I was like, you know what, dude, you have it. Bliss. We had 4 little kids at home at the time. My wife was super mom, super homeschool teacher, video, all that. But what's interesting is, you're right. I think people took 2 different approaches. I think that people thought about being intentional then. Now it's, I might see you once a week, so I don't need to be intentional the rest of the time. Or I'm going to see you in a couple of weeks, so therefore I don't need to be intentional about making the time. And I find, myself included, that I could go a week without talking to some people on my team because you get busy. And if we were in the office, I would just be like, hey Lou, what's up? What's going on? Like, how's it going? I see you're drinking a lot of tea. Everything's okay? Is the winter getting to you? Like, how's the heat in your house? When it's much harder to do that at a person. Yet what's ironic to me, and this plays a lot into the hustle, is all of these businesses have figured out that you got to get people back in the office. Yet they think, and I listen to them, and I listen to all the insurance companies, that it's actually about the deliverables, when it's not. It's about the deliverable that comes from the relationship. So
right.
I think you're the ultimate relationship guy, and I think that so many people just don't value that in their hustle and think that it's a waste of time. Or, by the way, let me ask you this, because you mentioned your daughter, and I know that your kids and your wife are like, at everything. What do you say to the people that say that the only relationships that matter are the ones with your family, and you should only by putting in extra time to come to an event in New York, you're giving up on that, or they're losing out?
It is something that you have to balance, and certainly I am traveling less intentionally over the last few years just because of being in a different place in life. And having grandkids now, and there's certainly, you have to prioritize what you're going to attend and what you're not. So there's definitely that component to it for sure. There are things that there are things that I'm not going to miss at home. I don't care what type of an event is taking place or what I feel like the value might be out of it professionally. I'm not going to attend certain things if they conflict with other certain things. So, I've sort of got a matrix, right, where I match things up. Being the CEO of a state Big I association, right, we have a lot of national Big I events that we are sort of expected to attend. I pick and choose those for sure because I want to, like, what's my role at the event? If it's a meeting where I've been around those people, 50 times in my career, like, is 51 really going to make that big of a difference, right? If I don't feel like I'm going to gain something from it, or if I don't have something of value to contribute, and there's a conflict with something else, then I'm going to pass, right? So it's certainly there's some algorithm that's going on where I prioritize and decide what to attend and what not to attend.
And it's interesting you say that because I want to ask you about being the state association guy. So we're both in the insurance industry, but for those who are not, Aubie runs an incredibly successful organization that bridges the gap between not only having a successful insurance agency within it, but also being the thought leader. Probably, I would say, I have not met every big eye in the country. I'm going to take my big eye out because you know that I love the CEO of the Big Eye New York, and everything in New York is better than anywhere else in the country. So therefore, if we take Big Eye New York out at the top, you're definitely number two, I think. Some would say number one, but again, that's no chance I'm ever going to say that. What have you seen building the Big Eye? Because it wasn't, Big Eye North Carolina was not a big thing, I think, before you got there, and certainly the culture wasn't there. And you guys do a tremendous job of engaging the younger agents. So give us some tips on building that or what you've seen that everyone can take into their business careers and building their organizations.
Well, yeah, and thanks, Aaron. I appreciate the kind words, and I would certainly never rank myself ahead of my good friend Lisa Lounsbury either.
Damn,
So
New York.
And I think it's really in keeping with the name of your podcast. I mean, to keep hustling. I'm a pretty self-motivated individual. I battle complacency every facet that I can in my personal life, professionally. And so I think that has been really the driver to some of the success that we've been able to have. And, I don't want to bore you with too much details, but, when I was the CEO of the Georgia Big Eye and spent, a good part of a career there, and we did some innovative things that were very cutting edge that tried to make the world a better place for our members. But it was difficult there because the resources were more limited. Like if I had an innovative idea for some new program or some new initiative, I mean, I'm going in and having to reorganize staff and reallocate budget resources and try to figure out how to do it with duct tape and shoestrings and very limited with resources. And then when I accepted the job to become the CEO of the North Carolina organization, much larger organization, much larger budget, much more healthy balance sheet, lots of money in reserves, and I had never been in that situation. And so I just started having conversations with my board about, okay, why do we have all this money sitting around? Like we should be operating like a well-funded startup, right? We should be operating and putting and using those resources and this is sort of a line that I've adopted over the years because I speak to a lot of Big Eye Association board of directors and my counterparts. You have got to stop looking at your reserve fund, at your balance sheet as a trophy, and it needs to be looked at as a tool. Right? How do we put that money to work?
And that doesn't mean you should be irresponsible in any organization. But if you have
absolutely.
If it sits there for the next 100 years, why did you bring it in? Why were you fiscally responsible in putting it in saving it up, especially as an organization, if you're not going to grow the organization or do the things that you want to do?
No, 100%. And if it's just sitting there and all you do is look at it and, shine a light on it and, celebrate the fact that you have it, but you're not using it, what that tells me is what, do you not have any ideas? Do you just not have any ideas of how to put that capital to work to add value to your association, to help your members, to make their lives better, to make them more successful in their businesses?
Or are you scared potentially?
Or are you just scared? And so I had a board member here in North Carolina that when I started, who was respected, ultimately had the ultimate level of respect from his fellow board members. And in some ways, he was very much a traditionalist and old school, but man, he got the message. When I started delivering the message, we need to look at this money as strategic, and we need to start investing that money in our members and our value proposition. He was all in. And so I'm a big reader and reading a lot about change management. I think, one of the big aspects of change management is you have to create urgency. Why is change important? And then you have to build allies, right? And so I was able to build an ally with a super influential board member who really helped me navigate that landscape with my board. And now, I've been in the North Carolina for 11 years. Everybody on my board, they're young, they're innovative. They come to board meetings absolutely energized to hear new initiatives, to to start new things, to take calculated risk. And it's been fantastic.
Well, that's awesome. And I have two things that I want to unpack there. First, I think it's interesting that you said that the older, well-respected, long time, correct me if I'm wrong, but more tail end of the career doing this as a way to kind of just pass on the legacy, but just kind of
All those things are true. Yep, everything you just said.
coast, right? Became the biggest advocate for change and growth. It's interesting to me because so many people are scared wherever they are, personally and professionally, but especially professionally, to rattle the cages of the old timers when really those can be the best mentors. And by the way, when this guy buys in, no one on the board is going to say he's an idiot. He's the new guy who wants to change everything. He doesn't care about North Carolina. He's a young kid, or he just started, and therefore it's the ultimate buy-in when most people are scared to get to that.
No, you're 100% right. Like, he was the perfect ally for all of those reasons that you just listed.
But yet one would think, or you probably would thought when you came in, like, oh, I'm going to have a hard time with this guy. So I find that interesting.
Yeah, I may have thought that. I would have been guilty of stereotyping, people based on, age and gender and whatever other affiliations that you want to.
That's keep hustling, right? Is saying, I believe that this could work. In order for this to work, I have to take this step, which according to all the boxes in my head or my stereotypes is not going to work, but I still have to take the leap and look at work. So that's what I think is amazing. I want to ask you though about, you said something interesting about resources. What would you say to the person who is at the organization that doesn't have the resources, but yet still wants to be innovative and have change and be able to make an impact to grow that? Like you said, healthy balance sheet. There has to be someone at every organization who takes the leap and says, here's what we're going to do. How can we do it? How can we be innovative, even though we aren't the biggest company with the biggest balance sheet, the biggest organization?
Right. Well, one, you have to take the approach that I did in Georgia, and that's you have to prioritize things and make sure that you're not spending resources on some sacred cow or something that no longer makes sense for you to do, which a lot of organizations are. Right? A lot of organizations have legacy programs. They're doing things that made sense at one time and maybe they don't make sense anymore. So let's stop doing those things or do less of those things and then reallocate those resources into some new initiative. I think that's one approach. And then certainly, look for people to partner with. Look for people that do have the innovations already moving and have the balance sheet. And if you can come in as a small part of something that's much larger, that's way better than not being able to do it at all. So I would look for opportunities to partner and collaborate with others that do have the appropriate resources, and then look to reprioritize within your own organization.
What do you think is the biggest thing that young people let stand in their way that's a total garbage and a bad excuse?
Of like trying new things, or
just in general of their success? You run an organization that does two things. A, I assume most of your employees are younger than you. I've met some of them, and a lot of them are super innovative, and you inspire them and collaborate with them. But even just the big eye of North Carolina, like I spoke there. I was blown away by the membership. And you said the board members who come and are just like ready to, what stands in the way of people who don't? How do you motivate the team to get behind? How do you inspire younger people to take the risk and come and talk to you about their ideas? Instead of just saying, I don't want to take off my boss and I just want to get my bonus and keep my career moving.
So I wish I had something incredibly unique here to talk about. I mean, I read a lot, so I meld together lots of ideas that I read in different books. And you mentioned Bezos earlier. I'm a big fan of Bezos and a lot of what he talks about. One thing that I really like about Bezos is when he talks about decision making and speed to decision making. So we do a lot of testing in my office. Like, we do a lot of pre-hire testing. We test for your cognitive ability, your cognitive ability. We do Clifton Strength Finders. Like, we do Wonderlic. We do a lot of testing. I'm very big in slow to hire and fast to fire, quite frankly. So you go through a lot to get employed with us, and it pays off. I mean, I don't know if you know this, Aaron. We're the multi-time winner of the best place to work in North Carolina for medium-sized businesses between 10 and 50 employees.
In spite of the CEO.
Yeah, exactly. We've built this incredible culture here. And one of the tests that we use is called the Colby. And I'm a low fact finder. Like, I don't need a ton of facts to make a decision. And some people do. Some people are really high level fact finders, and that's fantastic. You want them to do research, and you want them to really look at the granular detail. But the way that Bezos talks about this is, if it, how many facts you need to gather and how much time you need to take in deliberating a decision depends on whether you're walking through a one-way door or a two-way door, right? If you make a decision and walk through the door and it was the wrong decision and you can easily take a step back and back out of the room, then go fast, make a decision. If once you walk into that room, the door closes and it's not going to be easy to walk back out, then you need to be more deliberate and you need to make sure you've done more due diligence. So we try things that don't work, and we haven't we embrace change, and we're not afraid of failure. And I think everybody in the organization knows that. So one of our core values is innovation. So we're going to talk about improvement and changing workflows and adding new tools. And we are currently, you mentioned the agency that we operate here. I've got a team in the next room right now undergoing training for our new agency management system that we go live with on Monday. And
are you providing alcohol?
Oh gosh. Well, it's been
therapy, alcohol, or massage,
chair massages, the whole thing. Well, you'll get a kick out of this. It's our third AMS system conversion in 24 months.
That means you hate yourself.
Yeah. It means we were on an old legacy system and we made a move off of it, and that move didn't work. So we went back to one of the legacy vendors and one of their new systems,
but you know what's
everybody
amazing about
hated it, and now we're going back into another environment. So,
but I'll tell you what I think is amazing about that. Most CEOs feel that the best way, and I'm not saying that this is wrong, but I think that there's two parts to it. I think that the best thing to do is always just to inspire people, tell them what they did right, rah, life is good, and all those things. Yet what I find and what I've learned on this podcast at 110 plus episodes is that a lot of times it's the ability to allow others to fail and inspire them to fail, and not to steal my own punchline, but keep hustling, that ultimately gets to the most success. That doesn't mean, by the way, that a person could fail 99 times and never succeed that once and they're still going to have a job. But the calculated risks sometimes inspire staff and people who you want to push the ball forward with you more than saying, well, you had a great idea 3 months ago and we're going to ride that wave. Like, come to me with some bad ideas. Let's try all three. 2 are going to fail, but let's get it together. And by the way, equally as important, this is when I failed. And I failed at this, but look, we're still together. Stinks that we have to do this third implementation in 24 months, but we're going to do it together because that's the best way to move forward.
And if you're going to fail fast, right? If you made the bad decision and you realize it's the bad decision, man, stop beating your head against the wall for another 4 years, due to this. Well, it's sunk cost, right? I mean, like you study in economics and business classes. I mean, yeah, you paid for it, but that money's already spent. Like, there's no need to keep throwing good money after bad and good time after, the time that you've got next week will be better once we make a change and try to undo the mistake that was made.
And by the way, it's ironic because that's what gets employees in the most trouble. Trying to dig yourself out of a hole rather than coming clean, quote unquote, right off the bat, and saying, hey, listen, I think we messed this up, but here's how we're going to pivot. Like 6 months later, when all the reports are bad and your decision maker and the boss has to say multiple nights because you messed up, is what gets you fired, not the singular, oh, I think I pushed the wrong button one time. So I find that ironic. Aubie, I could talk to you all day. You're the best. And thank you for having your coffee with me and for being on the podcast and for taking the time and obviously for inspiring me. I would say I'd come back to North Carolina, although I love that airport. I was in Wilmington, North Carolina. It was a great little airport. I got in and out. It was fun. It was good times, but I should come visit. As you know, we have a closing tradition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational, inspirational quote and what it means to them. And I'm telling you right now, if it has to do with Georgia football, I'm going to make you choose a second one. So with that, I will say, Aubie, thank you again for being here. Best of luck to your daughter. If she wants to come to a real city and work in insurance, have her look us up in New York. We'd love to have her. If she wants to stick it out in North Carolina or Georgia or some other city that's not real, no problem. And she can always just be second to New York.
If you've got any connections in London, she would love a job in London.
No problem. So, done. Yeah. I'll help you out.
So I do appreciate the Georgia football reference. Kirby Smart is a walking motivational speech, and I love that guy.
Bradley Flowers just turned off this episode.
I show Kirby clips in my all-staff meetings all the time. We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. We will do the hunting. But since we're talking about innovation and the hustle, I'll leave you with this, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's actually hanging on my wall right here. It's the question is not whether our ideas are crazy, but whether they are crazy enough, And so I do think that was given to me by my youngest daughter when she was a little girl. Like she was maybe pre-teenager when she got that to me, but she would always talk to me about, Dad, you've always got these great ideas and you're always thinking about the next thing. And so she saw this somewhere and picked it up for me. And I have it hanging on my wall to this day. But I think that if you're going to have innovation as one of your core values and fighting complacency, you need to keep having ideas. And
I love that. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling with my good friend and mentor, Aubie Knight. Remember, do well by doing good. And of course, and always, keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.